Hi, I'm April A. Carter, expert relationship coach, and I help women attract and maintain fulfilling relationships. I believe every woman deserves a fulfilling relationship, where she is empowered to be loved, encouraged to be in love, and free to be her true self. By removing the concept of settling, women are able to prosper in love and life. I create a welcoming environment where you can learn the tools for developing a healthy relationship without fear of judgment. I now present to you Candid Couples, peeking inside the lives of everyday relationships to help you strengthen yours.
Thank you for joining me. It's because you guys are #inspiration relationship goals. These guys are literally Mr. and Mrs. Wright.
That's right.
Really, Mr. and Mrs. Wright. We have Mrs. Catrice Wright, and we have a handsome husband, Mr. Davion Wright, aka Wright. Thank you guys for being here. I want to show the ladies out there how you actually can achieve and aspire to meet your relationship goals like this lovely couple. Although we do know it hasn't been easy along the way, right? But I wanted to show them some actual real life couples. Can you share with us your love story?
So the love story began with me seeing him the first time in a church. So the whole thing about the biggest thing with this love story is he was engaged to another woman, ladies. So don't bring it, get in the way.
Oh my gosh. We got to hear more about that. That means he was engaged to the wrong woman, obviously. Okay, so.
Yeah, we were young, and long story short, because of our faith in the Lord, I believe that I heard the Lord was saying that was him. And so the attraction right there, it started inwardly. He was cute. He was playing the drums. That was something I always desired, someone in the church. And I fell in love with that for one, because that was one of my goals, like somebody that was kind of close to the Lord. So I was always looking, not saying that I had to find him in the church, but it was a good start, right?
It's
He was worshiping.
really important. You said you had goals and you knew where you wanted to start with somebody that was in the Lord. So take note, ladies, you have to have a starting point. Know where you want to go and what you want to achieve in your relationship. So you already knew that he was a godly man.
Yep. And then from there, I had to wait a little bit until that engagement broke down and God did what he did. And so I think the love story for me was once he walked me to the car. We was at a single ministries. I walked into this single ministry group and I didn't know he was single, but he was there. So I was like, yeah, God, he's single. It ain't no engagement no more. And he asked, could he walk me to the car? And he opened my door, and he still opens my door today, you guys.
It'll
20
be
plus.
it'll be 21 years of marriage in May, but we dated 9 months before we got married.
Only 9 months?
Yeah, that was it.
So how did you know, Davion? How did you know, like after only 9 months, previously being engaged, that she was going to be your future wife?
Actually, I probably, in all honesty, knew before the 9 months. But this is something I would like to say about that. When people say wrong one versus right one, the mistake about that is it's all about mindset. Marriage, you need love. It's a part of the requirement. It is a part of the foundation, but it is not the thing for longevity. And now, I'm not saying we love each other. So, however, it's the commitment factor. It's the mindset, because you could be with, you can have your perfect person written out on paper, your goals, you want this, you want that, blah, blah, blah. But if for whatever reason, especially unbeknownst to yourself, your mindset isn't right, you will disqualify the right person. And now they're the wrong person. You could be with the wrong person on paper, but with the proper mindset, all of a sudden they're qualified to be the right person, and you look up and you off to the races. So it all depends on a person's mindset and the choices we all make. Here's the thing: a lot of times, though, we have been in relationships and we just allow stuff to go on because we want to fit it into a box. We want to fit it into a space. And I just wasn't willing to do that, because I'm like, I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with you. If I'm starting to see stuff now, no. But when it comes to her, the decision came more clearly when I decided to choose to really go focus on it. it was one of those things because it's more like a friendship, but it's more like when I'm around you, I'm with you, I'm aware, I'm in the moment. But when I'm not around you, it's like out of sight, out of mind.
That's how they do, you guys.
But no, don't say that. Be careful. Out of sight, out of mind means it's like unless you're married, all bets are off, kind of, sort of, in a way. You know, we're single. But, you know, when you start building with someone, because everybody got their path, everybody got the stuff that they've been through, not just women, men do too, especially Black men, but we don't get any limelight in a positive way. So it's just understood that we just supposed to just, you know it and just take responsibility and run. No, it's a scary thing, you know, as a man. Matter of fact, it was a friend of mine. We friends to this day. Like, man, love is the thing. I was like, what is it? He was like, man, it's commitment. He said, because, you know, you got to make your mind up that even though you love somebody, you might not like this, you might not like that, stuff might break down, blah, 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 but you got to stay committed. Like, I never forget, I said, Lord, I says, I choose Catrice. I just made that comment. Lord, I choose Catrice.
Out loud.
Yeah, Lord, I choose Catrice. Because here's the thing. People like to say, well, you know, some people are trying to ride out a relationship because they swearing out God gave them that person. But like I tell people, let's use some sense. God does not marry men or women, right? We get married, you know, under the watchful eye and the witness of heaven of God. But he don't marry women. He don't marry men. You know, he has a lot of sons and daughters. At the same time, it boils down to what are you attracted to? What do you like? What can you be committed to in spite of, regardless of? And you make those decisions and heaven will sign off on it, provided the individual meets heaven's qualifications for a relationship anyway. Once that happens, now it's on you.
You guys actually live what you talk about and live what you do, right? This took a long time. It took you over 20 years to get this right? A long time to get it right. Earlier during your relationship, I know it wasn't as easy, but what was one main thing that you had to tell, you know, if you had to tell somebody newlyweds getting married that you were able to overcome and not listen to anybody on the outside just because of those things that you mentioned, D, like commitment and knowing that you're with the right person, knowing that you're fighting it out? Was there one time that you had to overcome something despite outside influences?
But the first thing, if we could choose one, the first thing I could consider probably right before we got married, when we was engaged, my dad, our pastor, was like, no, they did not want us to get married. So right at the beginning, we had.
But specifically, they didn't want you to marry.
They didn't want me to marry D. Yeah. So we were young. And so they felt like it was the wrong time and that he would manipulate me, you know, because he was so young in the church and very knowledgeable. That intimidated a lot of men at the beginning. And so, of course, me being the youngest daughter, of course, you know, at the time that pastor not really wanting to let him go into that next level, because when a man marries a wife, he finds favor. So that favor was going to increase. So I think for me, that was the first of many things that I had to make a decision after I gave him his ring back, you guys. I ended up, yeah. So that's a whole nother story.
I had that for another time. We can say that for
yeah, and so I ended up having to make the decision, and we made the decision together that regardless what, we knew we were supposed to be together. We was attracted to each other. We had a lot of things that we were like, we want this marriage. And so regardless of what those that were head of my life at the time, because I do respect authority, said, I had to go with peace. I had to make and choose within me to make that decision to be with him. And that's why we're so strong today, because no matter what, now we've overcome a lot, just me and him, you know. So that's one thing I can remember, just having to overcome that.
Now, so you mentioned that you guys had to overcome it together, right? But there are a lot of couples that are fighting hard to stay together. They're loving hard and they're fighting hard and they think that's the right way because their love is is the greatest love of all. And, you know, it's not the right relationship for them. How do you know that burning sensation inside is the right decision for you?
Well, I would say this. If we can't connect on real stuff, I'm not trying to waste my time. Feelings are temporary. So that being the case, I believe that you could be right in the midst of God's will so strong that the first thing you'll have is an overwhelming peace. But you can't manufacture that. You can't make that happen. Second thing is, again, going back to feelings, don't be tricked by them or deceived by them, because you could be so convinced that this feeling, this fluttering of the heart that you perceive it to be, man, this is God, this is what. No, maybe it's just that right now it's a situation that really hadn't encountered any real test or trial or pressure or whatever. So it's like, man, this is perfect. When at the end of the day, it's really not supposed to work. But a lot of times we're going to do what we can to make it work, especially in society today. Well, if it feels good, do it. No, if it feels good, and most people are feeling the same thing, run from it. There's a disconnect between generations. This current generation and the previous generation, there's a disconnect. And I think that we're blessed enough, my wife and I, we're not really old, but we're not really young. And I think that one of the best things we have is social media, but one of the worst things we have is social media. And I think through social media, as an outlet from regular TV sources and stuff, you get a lot of people that, because they have a huge following, they must be right. And the stuff that they say must be gospel. That's not true. Like my wife and I'm tickled when I hear certain people say stuff, and it's like, I know good and well they haven't been through that. They haven't lasted. Like you could drop people at the drop of a dime because you don't see eye to eye. They did something you didn't like, and you still being petty 2 years later. And you think I'm gonna listen to you?
They're gonna block you.
Yeah, no, it's so we just knew. And when you can put your life on, like me, I can put my life on this woman. I can put my life on my children. I can put my life on certain things. That I know. I'm going to be very choosy. Like you said, a lot of people, April, they are seeing Catrice. They're watching her grow and blossom. And I'm playing a background support. And I'm not competing with my wife. That's my wife. The better she looks, that only reflects. Like, okay, well, she got a husband. She got a support system. You feel what I'm saying? And so I think that's the strength of one of the greatest compliments to any man is having a strong woman that is thriving. And at the same time, I can sincerely say, she puts her home first. She puts me first. And every now and again we talk and she's doing stuff. And I'm like, okay, would you drop it? If I asked you to drop it, if I told you to drop it, would you drop it? And as long as her answer is still quickly yes without a hesitation, I'm not trying to stop her. Now, a lot of people say, oh, so you want to control your wife, you want to block. No, I want to keep my wife safe and protected. How many women get out here and make it and blow up and get big and only to end up divorced? But you got more money though. You famous.
But the viewers may not be aware how much of a support you are to your wife as you play that background role, as you mentioned. A lot of men are not willing to do that. They are not willing to do that. They are not willing to be the person behind the scenes and say, okay, baby, let me help you get to where you need to go. How can I support you? How can I take those steps? So for Catrice, I want to ask you this. How has it been on the other end receiving that positive information and feedback from women everywhere who are watching you and your husband, watching him support you? Because I know you get some positive feedback and, some cheerleaders like, wow, girl, that's awesome that you're doing that. My husband would never let me, or my husband doesn't, blah, blah, blah. How does that feel as a woman in today's society?
I think the timing is great right now. But to have my husband it's even greater. So when people tell me that, April, it's kind of like it kind of go by me. I'm like, first of all, he's been supportive of me. First of all, we've been loving each other when we've had nonprofit and doing things that nobody has ever seen. So I'm excited because it's real. Like you say, I get more joy because people can say that stuff and I don't like grab on to it and hold on to it like I'm appreciative. I'm appreciative of it. I'm grateful. I'm thankful that I can inspire in some kind of way, and it's God, but it don't go to my head because I'm like, we've been like this. You know what I'm saying? It's just going to another level as we mature and grow. So I'm just appreciative that during this time that I can say that I'm not alone as a woman out here, that although I'm out here, that I'm still following him. He's still my head. He's still protecting me. So even as we went through so many different times, and even with the vice president, and she's getting a lot of hype, and everybody's celebrating her, and I celebrate her too. She can be wonderful and great, but without covering, a woman can fall really fast. So I'm grateful and I'm thankful for my covering, for one.
You guys are dropping so many jewels right now, ladies. Make sure you take out your Make sure you record it. Make sure you are actually listening, because this is not a couple that is just here for the hype. These guys have been actually doing this. They are not new to this. They are true to this. So I wanted to bring couples like Catrice and David here because I wanted to show you real life couples. This actually takes work. It takes a lot. It takes sacrifice. It takes sometimes not getting your way. A lot of times not getting your way. Having to, meet each other in the middle takes a lot of, sleepless nights. It takes a lot of work, and it takes, like Catrice and Dee said, pushing out the noise and negativity from people around you. Because, guys, I know you know this, Catrice and Dee, that when you guys are exuding happiness and love, for some reason, outside factors like to come in and infiltrate, and so I'm happy that you guys can share your story and still be here today to share that. And you guys have a loving family. And I'm so excited to see what you guys do in the future. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with? Any last words of wisdom? Any jewels that you want to drop?
I just want to say thank you, April. Thank you so much. I just really appreciated the first time we met. You were so real. So I'm so happy to see that you're still doing this relationship that is true to you, and that you're helping, ladies, women. I'm not sure if any men gonna be watching it, but we're talking about these relationship topics because it's important. So just want to say thank you. And I guess the last thing for a relationship, like my husband say, just stay committed. And with that commitment, it does take you coming together. And what is your goal? What are you committing to in each season? Because that changes. Your love might stay the same, but that commitment, in different seasons, you might be committed to each other in ministry, committed, to each other, and it all brings the bigger commitment together. Like I commit to what he's committed to, he commit to what I'm committed to. So it's a little breakdown even of that.
Yeah, I would say it's all about, God's order of things. It's just like, you want to get something out of a vending machine, no matter how new it looks, no matter how stock it is. If it's out of order and you know it, would you put your money in it?
Right.
And would you actually expect to get something out of it?
Right.
And in today's time, I think the order of life, the order of relationships has been lost. It's so true. One of the things that the scripture does talk about how right, wrong, wrong, right, and that's kind of how we're living today. Well, you got to get your focus right. To my sisters that are watching this, know this: you're strong regardless of what, right? But don't assume that because a brother might be uncomfortable, because brothers, we don't have the support that women have. Even in most single parent homes, the single parent is a woman. So our young girls, they still have an example, whereas for our young men, it's everything but a strong, black male that is there in the home for whatever reason. And yet society would have us thinking that black men aren't worth much. And I'm saying it because of, who we're talking to and who we are. Black men aren't worth much. You can't trust them, this, that, whatever. No. And that being the case, your marriage should be stronger than any other ambition you have. And if you cannot put your marriage and therefore your spouse or your husband above what you got going on, you need to think long and hard before you take that plunge. And that's the thing that get a lot of people in trouble. You want the virtues of marriage and the greatness and the power of marriage without the real commitment and the sacrifice that goes into it. If your business and everything is going to be bigger and greater than your marriage can ever be, one of them is not necessary, and it's not the business. So think long and hard through who you are, where you're going. As a woman, I would say this, because submission is a bad word nowadays. My wife is submitted to me. Submission means when I don't fully understand or agree, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to prefer you above me. And at the same time, this situation, she'll tell you that when I didn't agree and I didn't fully understand certain things, I knew enough to say, okay, I'm going to fall back and let my wife handle that, So that's how we did it. But submission is a great thing. To my brothers that are watching this, be secure in your own skin, although it's harder for you to do, because, not just women, but men are still trying to find themselves and figure it out. Your woman can make more money than you, but you still are expected to provide the vision, right? Women, you can have a bigger career or whatever. That doesn't make your man less than, because the system is already set up for you to win above him. We got to be mindful of that, you know. But as long as he can provide you the security and the covering and be that listening ear, you know, there's certain things that I can just look at my wife's eyes, I can hear in her voice. Sometimes I can just tell what she's thinking and know what to do next. As long as you as a brother can provide that, or sister, when you recognize that, you can't put a price on it.
It's priceless. We've been saying it for years, right? It's priceless. You cannot put a price on the real thing.